Well, hello there, Uber Tuber Ubers, one and all, tall and short, and round and square. I guess triangular too. I don't know how many people are triangular just now, but short talk in the trailer park. I just got home from church, and I thought, well, you know what? It's such a beautiful, sunshiny day up in Albuquerque yesterday. I was so surprised watching the snow come down. I thought, what the heck? Well, snow's okay if you're inside. But to work in it, you can have it. So I thought to myself, I'm going to pour a little water on the dirt today because the sun's so nice and warm. Heck, the grass will probably be glad to get a drink here. And went to church, just got home. Came home, changed my clothes. That didn't take long. And talked to a guy today at church, Rick. And he's got an RV him and his wife live in. And I guess I've never seen the thing. I'm not really familiar with the thing they're in right now. Anyway, the water heater conked out. He wants to know if I can do something to maybe help him out. It's like, I took a look at the pictures on this thing and I said, I don't even recognize that as a water heater. So I Googled when I got home, water heaters, RV water heaters, something like that. And there it was. I saw the same unit, or very, very similar to it. $500. And I told him, well, I'll come up, if you want, I can set you a 20-gallon electric maybe. But none of that's going to happen today. So I'm just going to go up today and kind of put my eyeballs on it. I thought he said, and I don't really sometimes I have a hard time understanding this guy. I thought he said he had no water in the trailer. In the RV. Then it turned, oh yeah, we have water. So I don't know what he's talking about. But at any rate, I figured maybe I could jumper the hot to the cold so that they really have no hot, but at least they can get water running and, wash their hands up with cold water or, whatever they're doing. And you can always heat water on the range or whatever you need to. So, at any rate, I might do a water heater after work tomorrow. I don't know. But that's pretty pricey stuff. And these folks, they're not exactly, upper crust, financially speaking, kind of thing. And so I don't know if they're good for $500. Plus the parts to hook up. That's probably another $100 right there. And so we'll see. I'd like to get them hot water because it's kind of miserable being without that. I decided to get out of Albuquerque. Usually on a Thursday, usually on a Thanksgiving trip, I'll head up on a Thursday and come back on a Sunday. Pull out of Albuquerque maybe 2 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon, and I just decided to move it up a day. So said goodbye to my brother and sister and sister-in-law, and it was nice seeing them again. They, they look like they're doing fine, and they got all kinds of activities that they take care of, and they're involved with stuff that, in their own lives. Everybody's life is filled up, with something, and right now I'm filling mine up with pouring water on the dirt. So I thought, it was just great seeing them, and it was nice visiting and stuff, but they've got their life to live, and the next thing you know, Christmas will be here, and they've got kids, they've got grandkids, and a lot of planning and stuff to do at church and all that. So I just said to myself, I don't think I'm going to go home and rest. I'm glad I did because, I don't know how much I slept last night, but a lot of dreaming and stuff. And of course, after these dreams, can you ever figure any of that out? No. And it never occurs to me in a dream to ask, basic questions like, by the way, what are we attempting to get done here? Does this project have a goal? And so in one of the dreams, at least I was walking around and trying to find parts for something and trying to get something assembled, but nothing ever came of it in the dream. And I was beginning to feel self-conscious as I was dreaming because it was like, man, we've been doing this all day and haven't got anything done at all. And so I was thinking of it as a work day, and it was confusing to me. And I woke up basically confused. So anyway, that's the way dreams go. Wanted to say hello to everyone who's out there today. If you're feeling a little bit like I am, I don't know. I don't feel bad. I don't feel sad. I don't feel crazy. I just feel disconnected. Um, like when you overdose on food. You know, have you ever done that? Overdose on food? It just makes you kind of dumb. Just kind of real lazy and I don't want to do anything. So I went to church today and almost fell asleep during the sermon. Probably not exactly a roaring endorsement of the sermon. It was an okay sermon. You can watch it yourself if you care. But it's one of those ones where, one of those days. Yay, I think I got it turned off. There we go, give a little spritz to the grass. It was one of those sermons where, afterwards you think to yourself, well, am I going to take anything out of this and apply it? And I think I will, but it takes time, because sometimes you just don't see the application. I think what I really kind of wanted to talk about just for a couple of minutes here today was that right there, whatever that is. There we go, look, we're leaning all over the place. There we go. And so sometimes I think to myself that, you can have a grasp of perception of truth. You can have, an illumination, maybe from the Spirit, or your conscience tells you something, or someone comes right up to you and informs you, And, we're constantly grasping and gathering information and trying to put a picture together that makes sense about the world, which is hard to do because this world, by and large, doesn't make sense. Until justice is done and until evil is repaid, it's very confusing for me to figure out what are we supposed to be doing surrounded by an entire generation who not only despises God, repudiates him, won't call on him, can't remember that he's even promised salvation, and then they try, whoever they are, then the world tries to make sense of things less him, muscle him out of the picture, then make sense of things. Well, that's the devil's trick. That's the enemy's work. And so when you're walking in the midst of that, and you're trying to remember as a human and as a believer that there's a new mix here. There's the Spirit of God who has involved himself in our lives. There's the Word himself, Mr. Word to you, who has entered our world and then entered our lives by the power of the gospel and by the Spirit. And so there's new things that are actually happening. We've received a new principle in our lives, we have life eternal dwelling in us as a gift. And so the good news, the proclamation of the Word, is essentially prophetic in tone. And the tone of the thing comes to you, and it's to stir you, it's to inspire you, it's to kind of root you down, but it should also bother you, bother your conscience. Are you covering up a life of, things that you really wish you weren't doing, things like that. And so at any rate, the prophetic office as it comes alive in the New Testament, I think is more of, along the lines Jesus said the greatest prophet among men was John. None has risen among men greater than John. And so, John's testimony wasn't about John, and John's testimony wasn't about his pedigrees and his education. John's testimony was about another. He went into the desert. He lived on something called locusts and wild honey. I hope he wasn't eating bugs, but he might have. I guess you can eat them. Why would you want to? But at any rate, his testimony wasn't about how hard his life had been or how rough and tough he is or anything like that. John's testifying about a power that he has witnessed, the power of God, the power of the truth, the power of righteousness in person. And that Spirit testified when Jesus came walking by, everything, John's alarm bells came on. Even when he was in his mother's womb, he was recognizing who this guy is. And so God gave him a gift. John did. So the prophetic office is essentially an office, in my opinion, in this time of recognition. The great promised one who, ever since Eve and Adam basically showed the back of their hands to the Father Almighty, has been promised. There is one coming. He would be like Moses, but greater. He would be of the offspring of Abraham. He would be of the offspring of Isaac. He would be of the offspring of Judah. And things that narrow it down for us until all of a sudden he came along, and guess what? You know what? Nobody saw it coming. This much announced, much heralded, much, awaited, eagerly awaited arrival of the great Messiah King. There was just a handful of people on the planet who even knew it happened. Mary and Joseph, there's two. Several shepherds, is that three more? I don't know. There was the kings from the east. There was the prophetess and the older guy, I think his name was Simeon, I'm not sure, at the temple during his circumcision. A baby boy, I guess 8 days old. And so, what do we got? A dozen people in the room? Maybe. But the entire nation was blind to it. And so I have to think that the prophetic office in our time is that we await the one who comes with, as the scripture says, 10,000s of 10,000s of holy ones. So I guess we're talking plurality of hundreds of millions of holy ones. That's a lot of holy ones. And so he's coming in authority, he's coming in power. He gave signs for this. He gave us predictors. And who's going to see it coming? As far as we know, maybe nobody, but perhaps his people will at least be prepared, because Christ says that it comes upon the world like a snare. I like to think of it, instead of a snare, a little twig spring affair. Whew, got you, bird. I think of it as a bear trap. Or a mouse trap. Put your finger on that thing, pow, gotcha. Never saw it coming. And so the prophetic office is not about my keen insights. It's about, behold the Lamb of God. He takes the sin of the world away, by the way. Have you known that? Yes, you have. Then you need to get rid of your sin, because that's the thing that's going to wear us out. That's the thing that's going to burn us down in his presence. He will simply not tolerate it. He does not tolerate that stuff. And we can't not sin. By virtue of being born fallen, we're going to generate skewed results through our lives. But he knows us, and he has made a way where there wasn't one before. If the standard is justice, if the standard is truth, if the standard is righteousness, not one of us, not a single human being in the entire race ever, with one shocking exception, can pass that threshold called righteous judgment and survive. Let's not forget that part. He has turned the tables so that there's a huge number, a number so large we can't count it, of men and women and boys and girls from around the age, from every nation, tribe, tongue, captured and dragooned, welcomed, dragged in, compelled in. I like the story where Jesus is talking, and this is just one of his parable things that I'm probably going to maul this as well. But, go out and bring them. I want my house filled. Sir, we've sent out the invitations, and they keep coming up with excuses about why they can't come. I got to go try out. I got a new team of horses to work the field. I just married a wife. Surely we can't run around. Hey, I've got business plans to attend to. I'm a busy man. Life has a lot of demands, and I'll see if I can squeak you in. I will. So he's saying, no, those people are not coming anymore. And so he goes, go out to the highways and the byways and the hedgerows. Bring in the poor, bring in the lame, bring in the homeless, bring in the beggars. I will have my house filled. That's the, something like that is the story. Well, that's not the entire story, of course. But the point is that he's bringing in a host, a great host, and it's about his honor. And so I think sometimes what happens to me is I think, did someone insult me? Am I feeling a little under the weather today? Do I really want to do this? And so I'm rolling on my feelings. I'm rolling on how motivated or gung-ho or, stoked up I am at the time. Apparently how much coffee I had. And let's not forget the cigarettes. And that's not what it's about. There's nothing really that I can't put myself in, like the groove, the magic slot, the blessed space, we might call it, where I'm really wide awake and aware that the Spirit is strongly within his children and just palpably present and warm and good. He's all of that and more, and he never wavers. What happens is I quit paying attention. I close my eyes. I get all droopy. I get distracted. I get irritated. I get snappish. I get a lot of things. And then I forget about him. Then I start feeling lonely. Why am I feeling lonely? You muscled him out of the picture again. I think that I'm going to fix myself, right? How am I going to do that? Well, I've got my tricks. They never work. But it's a little bit like, here's my, maybe I'll hopefully end with this. Here's my bowling advice. You ready? Whenever you go bowling, here's my bowling advice. Ignore bowling advice. If you're anything like me as a bowler, if ever I do get a strike, which is, every once in a while, it's almost on accident. But whatever I did that one time, then the rest of the afternoon or evening, I'll fixate on trying to duplicate. What was it? Did I move my hand this way? Did I spin my wrist or what? And then from there it goes right downhill. I can't hit anything. Another gutter ball. And so what we want to do is we want to work up a technique, a kind of a salvation technique of some kind, where we can kind of like get in the zone and get attuned and get on God's wavelength and all that stuff from our end. Nah, that's just brain whack, and plus a waste of time. And so he's the one who comes and finds us. He's the one who stands us back up, dusts us off. Okay, point that way, go that way. Oh, no wonder I couldn't find it. I was going the wrong way again. And I just, I get to the point where I just, sometimes I want to just cut off connections with everyone. I don't want everything to do with anybody. Boom, 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 boom. And it's like, what's that all about? And maybe hurt feelings or feeling someone snubbed you or something like that. And that's where I live lots of times. I mean, and it's like, how depressing is that? But I think a lot of people do it. And so the thing is that he's pulling us out of our own wisdom and rooting us into a wisdom from above. It's peaceable, it's pure, it's founded upon his law, his gospel, the word testimony, which has been passed down. And so we have it in the 66, don't forget that. And what we need to do is we need to stir ourselves up to at least be aware. No, I can't put myself in the groove with the Spirit. But the fact that I'm not in the groove with the Spirit, I could at least ask, I could at least call. So I call to him and say, Father, I'm just not feeling it today. I'm just, you know what, I'm only here physically. Nothing against anybody. I just feel like I'm just kind of floating aimlessly and I'm not actively engaged doing anything. A little bit like that dream. Like, well, what are we really doing here? I mean, in the dream. I don't know. I'm trying to get something done. But it never occurs to me in dreams to ask questions like, well, what are we building? Do we have the tools for it? Where are they? Let's go get them. None of that ever happens. It's just one darn thing after another. And that's a little bit like life, I think. So he's waking us up so that we are self-consciously aware that I am of myself unable to perfect myself or even make myself suitable to, shall we say, be in the presence of his holy and regal majesty. And so he lifts up the nobodies and seats them as princes. That's the way the Bible talks. Well, the nobodies, that's where you and I come in. We supply those. So practice being a good nobody. What I mean by that is, don't insist that you're the most important person in the room. Don't insist that your feelings are the only ones that matter here. Don't insist that your way, was it my way or the highway? If you can be flexible, be flexible. If you can be doing things to generate peace or connection between loved ones and yourself rather than starting a new war, because we've got plenty of those. Have you ever met people who, somebody pissed them off like 28 years ago with some little snub or funny comment? They thought it was funny, but the other person didn't. 28 years later, that's still an open wound. You need to get the hell over it. But we can't forgive. The reason we can't forgive is because we know that justice shall be done. And we don't see that justice has been done yet in this particular case. And so I'm holding my grudge until I see blah, blah, blah. Let it go. Let it go. You're going to go in the ground, partner, before that little grudge gets settled. And after you go in the ground, it's fear of punishment, not fear of death. I was listening to one of the prophets the other day, I believe it's Jeremiah. It's through fear of punishment that we're manipulated. It's through fear of punishment, not necessarily death. But those two work together, don't they? People inherently fear death. Why? Is it so scary? No, it's the one we're going to meet on the other side for that little interview called The Judgment. And he judges justly, impartially, and there is no buying him off. And so we fear punishment. Christ the Lord, he's the one who took the punishment. That's the gospel message. And we need to walk in that confidently and just make up my mind. Make up my mind today, Mike. Yep, once again, we're going to settle it today. Had to settle it yesterday, and we're going to have to settle it again tomorrow. There's nothing I can do to make myself good enough. And even if I try, even if I do, it just makes things worse. It's like that crazy dream. We're not getting anywhere. And yet, in him, we go far. In fact, we go so far that from our perspective here and now, we can't see how far. It just seems unthinkably high and far. But it's a life eternal. That's the gift. And he guarantees it. He swears on his own honor that that's the thing that's coming through the door. Yep, that's what you're seeing. Beginning to emerge. Life eternal in his children. And it's already started. So don't you be left out. Come on in. The door's closing soon. The gospel offer is not good everlastingly. There is an expiration date. And if you don't appeal to him for mercy, who will you appeal to for mercy when you need it? Because we're all getting old. We're all getting to the point where I'm going to fall down one day and not be able to get back up by myself. And that happens to everyone. We're just getting old. We're getting weak. Welcome to earth. And we will have to be lifted up by another. Eventually he will call to the dead, and they shall stand up. So our message to ourselves, the gospel we preach to ourselves is, Mike, don't be a knucklehead. I know you don't feel it today. I know you don't really want to go up there. I know you don't really want to look at that water heater. I know you really don't want any part of trying to figure out some RV junk on a weekend. But it's for a brother. It's for a sister. And wouldn't it be nice if they had hot water maybe at least tomorrow? It's not going to happen today. But get with it and get involved in other people's lives. Yes, it will cost you. And who knows, I might end up, as a net result, actually losing money in this deal. These people aren't made of money. Neither am I. But the thing is that, I mean, if I had to, I think I could help buy the parts and stuff. But anyway, we're going to walk away, I hope, by late tomorrow with a new water heater in an RV 19 miles from here. Right now, I don't even know where it is. I'm going to have to meet Rick. He's going to show me how to get to his place. And in other words, we need to participate. And the way that he reaches out into this world is he assists the poor. He speaks to those who are without hope. He heals the sick. He opens doors for those who are locked in and trapped. All kinds of good stuff. But he allows us to be a part of it, to at least participate. And so participate. Stick your foot in it. Say, yep, I may not know what I'm doing today. I hope I don't foul it up and make it worse. But I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know how this happened. But I want to be a part of it, and I'm glad it happened. So walk into life and greet it with wide open arms, even if it stabs you in the back, because in the end, he wins. And we can be confident that even if I'm struck down, even if you're struck down, and a lot of bad things are going to happen to a lot of good people pretty soon. So, there's not much I can do about that. But we can go into suffering the correct way. The early Christian martyrs, they were actually kind of lining up to go into the lion's den. Romans really didn't know what to make of this. So you're saying now, Mr. Emperor, that if I refuse to acknowledge you as Lord and acknowledge only Jesus as Lord, then this makes me an enemy of the state and you're going to have me torn apart by lions. Okay, let's go. And they weren't cowering in the corner, and they weren't complaining about it, and they weren't pissing and moaning and saying, why me all the time? And so be bold and be generous, and don't be afraid of the future. He owns it because he owns you too. And it's only going to get better. There's, if you're at the bottom of the cup, there's only up to go. We only got one direction out of here, through the roof, and he's the one who lifts us through it. In Jesus' name, we bless each other, and in Jesus' name, we seek peace. So go spread peace. Be nice to the lady at the cash register on purpose. Say, you have a nice smile. Have a good day. Bye-bye.